It's time to return to Kingdom Come. Welcome to the Comicstorian Full Story channel, where you get old and new full stories from Comicstorian in one place to give you a better viewing experience. Today, you will get the Batman-Superman World's Finest story, Return to Kingdom Come by Mark Waid. I hope you enjoy.
In a blur of red lightning, the Flash runs through the multiverse, gaining glimpses of each world as he passes them. Suddenly, another Flash passes him, this one wearing a bowl-shaped helmet with wings. Flash slows for a moment, seeing a new world, and there he sees David, the former sidekick of Superman who disappeared into the multiverse, but something is wrong. Someone is standing over David. Back on Prime Earth, Batman, Superman, and Robin are preparing to fight against some of Wonder Woman's rogues that have arrived at Gotham City. But there's a blur of red and the criminals are all suddenly imprisoned. Also a plan. Batman grunts softly and Superman looks at their speedster friend in concern. Flash, you look worried. What's up? Barry steps forward, explaining to Superman that he's finally found David. But something is terribly wrong, Flash says, ruining Superman's happy moment. Later at the Batcave, Flash fully explains what he saw in the multiverse, telling them that David is on what he calls Earth 22 and he's possibly in danger. Flash motions over his shoulder, showing them the cosmic treadmill that he built, which should allow Batman and Superman to travel to Earth 22. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This design is unrefined. There's a chance you could end up landing anywhere in the multiverse. Are you guys sure about this? Flash asks them. But Batman and Superman don't hesitate, preparing for their journey. Lifting Batman into his arms, Superman steps onto the treadmill, beginning to run. There's a blur of motion and the world seems to stretch around them. Reality beginning to alter, and in moments, they find themselves on Earth 22. End of the line, Batman says as he looks around at the forest that surrounds them. At least we made it here in one piece, Superman points out, but Batman makes a note that they aren't solid yet as he waves his hand through the tree. Something's off. We're not fully in vibrational sync with our surroundings, Batman says, but Superman isn't listening, stepping out of the trees, finding an older David standing nearby. David! Superman shouts, but the older, scarred hero can't hear him. He's paying attention to something else, Batman notes, motioning Superman to look elsewhere. Nearby, older versions of Bruce and Clark are standing over 3 caskets. Inside of those caskets are Ted Kord, Kara, and Ray. Superman is shocked to see the bodies, but Batman turns, realizing that they are standing in a vast cemetery of dead superheroes. What in God's name happened here? What could have possibly taken so many? But he stops short when he sees the gravestone that reads, Red Robin. Superman joins him, the world suddenly spinning around them, and both heroes see flashes of events and people, but they are suddenly standing on the rooftop of the Daily Bugle, solid with the world once more. Barry warned us that we might experience some sort of temporal displacement, Batman notes as he looks around, and Superman nods, pointing out that they seem to have slipped back into the past. Same Earth, but a few years ahead of our own time, Superman says, scanning the city, finding his Earth 22 counterpart. Maybe he can tell us about David. Let's go introduce ourselves, Superman suggests, but Batman shakes his head. Not yet. He might not be as accommodating as you tend to be, Batman tells his friend, suggesting that they actually lay low and learn as much of this world as they can. You think our money's any good here? Batman wonders, and a short time later, the pair are in civilian clothes and journeying to planet Krypton, where they marvel over the celebration of superheroes at this restaurant. There are differences here. Have you ever heard of a superhero named Booster Gold? Batman asks, pointing to the picture of the restaurant's owner. Seems to think a lot about himself, Superman notes, and the two sit down for lunch, with Bruce questioning what Clark plans on saying to David, or what he plans to do with the young man when they return to their reality. He points out that Clark won't have an easy time just adopting David, pointing out that he went through the same thing with Dick. I'm rich. I know what have been the rules. Trust me, even with my resources, protective services were watching me like a hawk. He then takes a bite of his steak. But don't sweat it, it's all solvable. Maybe this Superman's already figured it all out, Bruce notes, and he looks up from his meal to realize that Superman isn't listening to him. What is it? Clark looks back at him, pointing out that he doesn't think he and his Superman are the same. Bruce, I can't get that cemetery out of my mind. How dedicated is a Superman who would ever let that happen? Clark asks. But Bruce shrugs, pointing out that they don't know the details about what happened yet, and Clark sighs, nodding. but he continues to look around the restaurant, his supervision finally landing on a book titled The Justice League Casebook, which he scans. There's one other difference between our Earths. I can't find a single reference anywhere to parallel worlds. Bruce, no one on Earth 22 has ever heard of the multiverse, Clark tells his friend quietly. But their lunch and conversation are suddenly interrupted as Clark turns his head to the sound of battle. In a blur of speed, he speeds away from the table to find David fighting against a supervillain in downtown Metropolis. As the Atom Master grabs a hold of David with his construct, Superman is suddenly there to break through the attack. Atom Master, right? We have one of you at home. But Atom Master laughs, creating a kryptonite wall that weakens Superman, bringing him to his knees. Suddenly, there's a gas pellet at Master's feet, and she falters. Too bad you didn't learn how to hold your breath. Batman growls as he stalks forward, freed of Master's construct. David steps forward as well. Superman, hold on, I've got this! David shouts as he grabs Master's face and begins to burn her away. She screams, releasing Superman from her attack. That's enough! Superman shouts, blowing out David's fire attack with his super breath. The danger has passed! You could have killed her! Batman shouts as both heroes rush to David's side. It takes a moment, but he suddenly realizes who they are. Wait, Superman, you're younger, and Batman, I remember that costume. His eyes light up as he smiles and he rushes to them. Happy, they finally came to save him. I'm so glad you're here. I've been here for years. I've been waiting for this moment. But then the happiness leaves his eyes as he grabs Superman by the throat, lifting him into the air, extreme energy bursting around them as Superman is screaming in pain. You abandoned me! Forgot about me! Left me to fend for myself on a whole new world! David shouts as he hits Superman with another burst of energy. You two have no idea what you're in for in this world! David growls as he glares at Batman. Elsewhere in the city, Clark Kent is in the process of getting a story. But news of the Thunderman fighting against Batman and Superman reaches his ears, and he disappears in a blur of red and blue. Back at the Batcave, the news is playing on the Bat computer. Bruce turning to Alfred to ask him to repair the experimental flight suit for combat. Back in Metropolis, Superman has gathered his strength and he lashes out at David, knocking him away. That's enough! First things first, let's move this discussion out of a populated area. Superman snaps as they fly out of the rural area, leaving the city. You got the drop on me earlier, but no more, David. David stares at him for a moment. Okay. Help! I'm under attack! He begins to shout. Superman is shocked for a moment, but there's a blur of motion and Superman 22 suddenly slams into him. Superman is knocked away, quickly getting to his feet, wiping blood from his lip. Yeah, I suppose I should have predicted this. He tries to talk some sense into Superman 22, explaining that he is from another Earth, but the older Superman isn't listening, continuing to lash out and attack, with the younger Superman barely able to avoid the blows. It's a trick, Superman! He's lying! He tried to murder me! And he told me that I was only the first to die! David shouts to Superman 22. Back in Metropolis, Batman is trying to get Superman on the comms, reminding him that something is wrong with this Earth. Something in the air is giving me a bad feeling. Batman suddenly whirls around as a grenade drops at his feet, blowing up the ground around him. Let that something be me, because I don't tolerate imposters. Batman 22 growls as he swoops down in his older age. I don't care if you're Clayface or a white Martian. There's only one of me, and that's plenty. Batman 22 says as he launches into the fight with Batman. Back in the mountains, Superman 22 continues his assault, but Superman has finally had enough, grabbing Superman 22 and throwing him to the ground before leaping into the air and flying away with Superman. The older Superman then gives chase, but Superman leaves him into a nearby lead tunnel. It's there that he quickly loses the older Superman in the darkness of the tunnels. Even if I can't see you, I can hear you, Superman 22 shouts. Superman nods and whistles, using his enhanced vocal cords to create a pitch that brings the entire mountain down on Superman 22. He flies out of the destruction as it collapses on the older hero, returning to where they left David, but there's no sign of Thunderman. Batman, I've lost David. Has he returned? Superman asks over the comms, but Batman can't answer. He's too busy dodging a fast kick from the older version of himself. Does anyone in this world have brains and enough patience to reason? Batman growls as he blocks a punch and launches a kick at his counterpart. We're evenly matched. Our strategies are identical, Batman 22 notes as he backs away. What does that tell you? Batman asks, but a batarang flies from nearby, wrapping around Batman's arm, pinning him to the nearby debris. That you're not Clayface. He moves like an elephant. I'm banking on telepath myself, Nightwing says as he leaps out of the shadows, tripping the pinned Batman, who's stunned to see the older version of Dick Grayson. While the dynamic duo begin to talk, Batman begins to use his new tech that he took from Atom Master to create a blade cutting through his bonds. Freed, he quickly dashes out at the duo, knocking them away, using the tech to create chains that pin them to the ground. That I'm merely restraining you should clear me of suspicion. Now let's get a fresh start, Batman says as he begins to tell the Earth-22 dynamic duo why he and Superman are here. But energy suddenly lashes out, striking him. Don't listen to him! He may look like you, but he's a stone-cold killer! David shouts as he rushes forward, preparing to hit Batman again. There's a blur of red and blue, and Batman disappears. In moments, Superman and Batman are standing at the Kent farm. Take your time, why don't you? Batman jokes at his friend's late rescue, but Superman isn't in the mood. Walking around the farm, he realizes that this world's Ma and Pa Kent have already passed away. Superman is angry at the heroes of this world, at the people that this Superman let die, and he lashes out, destroying a tree in one blow. But Batman puts a hand on his friend's shoulder. Clark, focus. You're never at your best when you're this angry, Batman says to him, suggesting that they return to their Earth and they regroup. But Superman shakes his head, holding up Flash's return device, showing the Dark Knight that it's been destroyed. We're stuck now, at least for now, Clark tells him, and Batman nods, asking his friend to keep his supervision on David. We gotta find out what actually turned him so drastically, Batman explains. And Superman nods, turning on his supervision, shocked to see David talking to their Earth-22 counterparts and reminding them about his origins on this world and how he's never met these versions of Batman and Superman before. What is he talking about? Superman asks as he relays David's words to Batman. He's desperately trying to hide that he's from another Earth for some reason. You said earlier that this world doesn't know about the multiverse. Why is David so determined to keep it a secret? Back in Metropolis, Batman 22 frowns at these words, but the heroes of Earth 22 look up as the wind begins to swirl around them. He's coming. He'll have answers. He always does. Praise be the way and the light. Praise be the stars above and the earth below, David says as the heroes all kneel before the golden armor-clad being that now stands before them. Praise be to God! All of the heroes on the planet begin to chant, and still using his supervision, Superman is stunned at the being's appearance. Who is that? He wonders. But both Batman and Superman turn to the sound of someone's approaching. He's the giver of life, and we are his disciples, Starman says as he and the rest of the Justice Brigade prepare to fight against the heroes. A short time later, both Batman 22 and Superman 22 are kneeling before Gog on his throne in the Saharan Citadel, while David sits by his side. Gog commends the two heroes on fighting the chaos demons that have come to their world to sow discourse before the ascension. And Superman 22 looks up at their ruler. We are happy to seek the demons who masquerade as us. They shouldn't be hard to locate. Gog merely smiles. No, they're not. They'll be brought before me soon enough, he rumbles. Over on the Kent farm, Batman and Superman have launched into battle against the Justice Brigade. Superman whirls around, hitting Wonder Woman with a blast of super breath before grabbing Batman and attempting to fly away. But Zatanna uses her magic to wrap Superman up in chains, which weaken him and drop him to the ground. Etrigan the demon launches forward, but Batman whirls on him, throwing a batarang into his eye. Your strength is nullified by the chains because you're vulnerable to magic, not because they're unbreakable, Batman says as he presses a grenade against the magic chains. They explode, snapping them, freeing Superman. Enough of this, Kid Flash shouts as he zips by Batman, grabbing a hold of his bat belt. This battle might not be winnable, Superman notes as he swoops down, protecting Batman from a blast of energy from one of the heroes. Batman whirls away as Supergirl launches at him, but he twists under her attack, throwing her through the air, slamming her into the old Kent truck. Do they not have the martial art Clerker on your Krypton? If they did, it seems that one of us bothered to learn it, Batman points out to her, as Superman launches forward, grabbing a hold of Shazam's hand, holding his attack as magical lightning crackles around both of them. For the last time, we're not who you think we are, Superman shouts, and Batman turns as more heroes approach, though he has never seen any of these before. Huh, unfamiliar. I guess not everyone here is a doppelganger. The three unknown heroes launch their attack, slashing Batman and drawing blood. Moments later, the fight is over, The lanterns have pinned the heroes down, and Firestorm is using his power to create kryptonite gas to weaken Superman. Nice work, everyone! I'll take it from here, David says as he arrives, directing the lanterns to carry Superman and Batman away. A short time later, they're both brought before Gog's throne. So, these are the two assassins out for Thunderman's blood. The ruler introduces himself as the Eternal Light, who has been gifted with bringing this world's heroes the glory of ascension. It is not a responsibility I take lightly, Gog tells him, and he looks at Superman 22 and Batman 22. Imprison them in the catacombs for now, he orders. As the older Superman moves forward, our Superman looks at him with anger. What has David become under your watch? Does it even matter what path he's taken? You can still help him. There's still hope, Superman shouts angrily. Superman 22 is stunned by the words, but Batman 22 steps forward. I'll take them, he tells his friend, leading Batman and Superman of the main Earth deep beneath Gog's citadel, passing rows of cells that house the criminals of this world until finally he pushes them both into one of those cells. Alone at last, Superman turns to Batman, questioning Gog's throne, admitting that he's seen it somewhere before. The two's conversation suddenly is interrupted as a weak voice calls out to them from the shadows. Voices, tell me anything. It's been so long since I've heard. I've learned. Feed me, please. I'm so very hungry. The man says weakly, and Batman kneels before him, apologizing for not having food, but Superman shakes his head. He's not hungry for food, Bruce. He's starving for knowledge. I recognize this man. Gog's throne belongs to him. It's the Mobius chair, and this is Metron of the New Gods, Superman says as he looks down at the weakened god of knowledge. Back at Gog's throne, David turns to his ruler, admitting that he feels bad for lying about Superman and Batman. They were once my friends and mentors, David reminds the ruler, and Gog nods in understanding. It's too late to tinker with destiny, David. The hour is upon us. Your friends are good men, David. They mean no harm, and they will share in our grand reward. Gog continues, but informs David that the heroes can't return to their world, and if they learn why, they will rebel. What comes next requires you to find yourself a strength you've never known you had, David. Gog tells his loyal follower, telling him that he must become the ultimate warrior. David nods, kneeling before Gog, who raises his hand and sends a blast of energy over David. David screams in pain as the energy begins to change him, and as the smoke clears, he raises as Magog. Back in their cell, Metron explains the history of Gog, that he was a powerful being on Urgrund in a paradise known as the Third World. But the beings of the Third World began a war, and Gog spoke out against it. As he was cast out and exiled to the Void, the war destroyed his homeworld, and it was split into two realms, which formed into Apocalypse and New Genesis. The warriors of Urgrund who died in the battle were sent to Valhalla, as was their belief, while Gog careened through the emptiness for aeons. Finally, he fell to the primordial earth, where he arose as a lone deity, filled with regret and pain. Meanwhile, at the Kent farm, Batman 22 is speaking to his Superman, questioning David's relentless severity towards the new Batman and Superman. His actions made me suspicious, so I did a little detective work, this older Batman explains, telling Superman that he finally looked into David's past, but can't find any evidence of the story that he gave him. No parents or reports of an accident that would give Thunderman his powers. What are you getting at? That David made it all up? This older Superman asks, and Batman 22 nods. What if our doppelgangers are telling the truth? If they really are strangers to Thunderman, how did they know his name is David? Batman 22 asks. Back in their cell, Metron continues his story, explaining that he met and befriended Gog on Earth, where the two watched the evolution of mankind. The humans eventually worshipped Gog, learning of his unwavering laws of right and wrong. He was generally a force for good, but then, Metron says, explaining that he taught Gog about the multiverse, told him what happened to Urgrund, how it split into Apocalypse and New Genesis. Learning these facts, Gog fell into silence for 10,000 years. He waited, unmoving in his vast citadel, until the arrival of David. When David arrived, Gog began his plan. He turns to Metron and asked to use the Mobius chair, but the new god refused, so Gog took it from him. He used his power to wind up and imprison the new god. Since then, Metron begins to state, but the story is interrupted by the arrival of Superman 22 and Batman 22. Relax, we heard every word. We come as allies bearing gifts, the older Batman says as he holds up a utility belt, and the older Superman holds up a spare costume. Batman steps forward, returning the radio bug that Batman 22 placed on him during their fight. I believe this belongs to you, Batman says, knowing that Batman 22 would want to investigate the imposters directly. The two heroes of Earth 22 step forward, apologizing for their actions, since this is the first time they've met anyone from a parallel universe. Hearing Metron's story, Gog's history, it's like emerging from a fog. Gog wasn't fully controlling us over these last few years, but he made us amendable to his thirst for worship. Highly suggestible. Superman 22 says as he steps forward, shaking Superman's hand. But Batman still wants to figure out why David has been lying to the heroes of Earth 22 and what the ascension is. We'll ask David when we separate him from his master. Batman 22 growls, but Metron looks at them, explaining that the ascension is Gog's plan to push through the cosmic wall surrounding the multiverse, through the Speed Force and the Bleed in order to wage a war against Apocalypse. But Gog doesn't plan for a victory in that war. The ascension is his plan to lead Earth's heroes on a suicide mission. Back in his citadel above, Magog sits on the Mobius chair, where Gog uses his multiversal energy in the chair itself to open a portal into the multiverse. Gather our flock, David, it is time. Ask Earth's heroes to join us as we rise, Gog says, though he knows that he used his powers to nudge the heroes of Earth's beliefs. Together, we will lead them to the gates of glory, Gog proclaims. But that's when both pairs of Batman and Superman appear. If that's your description of Apocalypse, Gog, then you are more deluded than we thought. Both Batmen launch forward, using their flight rocket belts to grab Magog and knock him off the chair, launching him off the roof of the Citadel. That leaves Gog with both Supermen. Batman and I are no longer under your influence, Gog, Superman 22 says, and then Superman looks up at the god, offering him one chance to stand down. Or you'll answer for what you've done to David, Superman says. But Gog lashes out at them with his energy, knocking them both away. I've had enough of your ingratitude, he bellows with rage. Nearby, Magog is lashing out at the Batmen, ordering them to stand down. That Gog is merely trying to lift the heroes of Earth up to make them immortal. In the Citadel, both Supermen are flying at Gog, hitting him again and again, staggering the god. Why would you lead Earth's heroes into a fight you know you cannot possibly win? Superman 22 demands as he hits Gog again, but Gog whirls on them. To earn what was so unjustly denied of me so long ago. Together, my army and I ride to the Armageddon. My people knew that the only passage into Valhalla was to die in noble combat. Meanwhile, Magog demands that the Batmen give up. David, it's still not too late to pull yourself away from Gog's madness, Batman says, trying to reason with the hero. Batman 22 leaps down from the shadows, wrapping an armored arm around David. Wake up! He's instilled some sort of death wish in you. I've been watching you closely. You're not in all of his plans. I can read hesitation all over you. Batman 22 growls, but Magog twists, throwing Batman 22 away, and Batman leaps down, throwing a batarang at his former friend. Stop tormenting yourself, David. Everything can be forgiven. Come back to our Earth. Come home. Batman shouts, but Magog lashes out with a blast of energy, forcing Batman to dodge away. Batman continues to try and talk down David, explaining to him that Superman thought of him as a son, that he believed in him, that he believed that he was a good person, that the heroes never stopped looking for him. David finally falls to his knees before Batman. Back in the Citadel, the two Supermen are continuing to fight against Gog, but they're no match for his pure energy. He grabs a hold of both of them, slamming into the ground. Gog doesn't understand the fight, believing that he is doing the right thing by leading the heroes of this Earth into some glorious battle, that they may die and be sent to Valhalla, where they will become immortal. He reaches out, grabbing a hold of the older Superman, Superman 22. Allow me to demonstrate the wisdom of my plan. I have you bested in combat, and now you shall reap the benefits. You will be the first to greet heaven, Superman. For yours will be a good death. You're welcome, Gog says with a smile. But he turns to the sound of David's voice. Let him go, David orders, now at the head of the Justice Brigade, leading them against Gog. I brought friends, just like you told me to, but now they know what's really going on, and trust me, they're not happy. The heroes launch an assault against Gog, but he merely smiles. Do your worst. I'll personally send each of you into the afterlife with my own 2 hands. He reaches out, sending a wave of energy out of the Mobius chair, using it to open up a boom tube, a bridge to apocalypse. As the heroes begin to battle against Gog, Batman moves through the rubble of the battle, pulling Superman to his feet. Get up! These people don't realize how much is at stake here, Batman says as he pulls Superman up, realizing something. Gog's power to overcome a person's free will sounds like the anti-life equation. The very thing that the ruler of Apocalypse has been hunting for his entire life. The thing that will allow him to dominate the universe and the multiverse. What if Gog has it? Batman asks, and suddenly Superman 22 is by his side. Then we can't let him get within a light year of Apocalypse, the Man of Steel hisses. Superman thanks Batman and steps away, preparing to launch an all-out assault on Gog alongside Superman 22. They both rocket into the air, slamming into Gog's chin. The blow echoing, quaking the citadel around them as Gog staggers, falling to the ground. With the fight ended, the heroes begin to help each other up as Superman steps forward to David, helping his former sidekick to his feet. I'm sorry for everything. I only did what I thought was right, David says softly. Superman smiles at him. I'm just glad we're free of him. You fought hard. That's the David I know. It's over now. Help us shut down this boom tube and we can figure out what comes next, Superman tells him. No, Darkseid says as he steps through the tube, regarding the heroes before him, his eyes glowing with the energy of the Omega beams. We're too late, Batman hisses in fear. Having stepped through the portal, Darkseid turns his burning eyes upon the heroes of Earth. The greatest heroes of the age stare in horror at the otherworldly Titan. The 2 most powerful beings on the planet step forward. Darkseid senses something. We'll do what we can. Superman 22 says, the rest of you, run. Superman from our Earth finishes. The 2 heroes leap forward, beginning to pummel the god, their blows having no effect on Darkseid. David prepares to leap into the fight, but Batman stops him, shouting for the young hero to gather the rest of the heroes of Earth 22. Gog said that the other heroes were already en route. Gather them, go! Batman shouts as the Kryptonians continue to wail on Darkseid. He looks at them with amusement. 2 of you. Interesting. He rumbles before blasting them with the Omega beams, bringing them both to the ground. He steps over and on their smoking bodies. Flash 22 glances at Batman. I'll buy you some time, he says with a smile. He dashes forward in a blur of Speed Force lightning, but Darkseid knocks him down in a single blow. You appear to have something that I desire. Relinquish it, Darkseid commands as he moves forward. Shazam is the next to go down. Wonder Woman and Green Lantern rush forward, but Darkseid blocks their blows, shattering their weapons, dropping them to the ground in a moment. David watches in horror at the sight, the heroes dropping one by one. And Darkseid looks down, seeing 2 Batmen standing before him. I have come for the knowledge of the pretend god. Walls of flesh and bone cannot shield it, Darkseid says, sweeping them aside. Finally, Darkseid arrives at the fallen form of Gog. He holds out his hand, his power reaching out, calling forth the power of the anti-life equation. It is here for my taking, and you will not survive the extraction, Darkseid says, but David rushes forward with his spear, shouting for Darkseid to stop. I'll stop you, David bellows, and Darkseid turns his eyes upon him. Where 2 Kryptonians could not? He questions, looking back to Gog. There is no path to victory for a dust mote such as yourself. But David believes there is, turning his spear on Gog, the very god that granted him his powers. He blasts the fallen god with all of his might, disintegrating him before Darkseid's very eyes. So much for him, David snaps as Darkseid turns to him, almost with shock in his eyes. Without a word, Darkseid turns, stalking back towards the open boom tube. What? Don't you turn away from me, we're not done yet! David bellows in rage, and Darkseid shakes his head. It is a common error amongst those who oppose me. You mistake anger for significance. There is nothing to be gained by wasting my time with the children of this earth. Not this day. Until we meet again, you immature whelp. Whenever you cry out in your nightmares, it is Darkseid that you will see. Darkseid rumbles before disappearing through the portal. The earth is once again quiet. David stares in shock for a moment before turning back to his friends, proud that he defeated Darkseid for the moment, but the Supermen both stare at him in shock. They point out that he murdered Gog in cold blood. So? David says in shock. That's 2 bad guys for the price of 1. You should be throwing me a damn party. How many billions of lives did I just save? David asks angrily. But Superman 22 steps forward, explaining that morality isn't measured by how many lives you save by taking another. Batman stalks forward, angrily snapping at David that he should have gone and gotten the other heroes of the planet. That together, they could have brought Darkseid down. You took the easy way. That doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a weapon. Superman says quietly, and the rest of the heroes gather, agreeing with Batman and Superman. David glares at them all, demanding to know what happens next. So what? You gonna throw me in Arkham? The Phantom Zone? He demands, but Superman shakes his head. I wish I had an answer, he says softly, and David glares at him with hatred for a moment before turning away. Until you figure it out, to hell with all of you. To hell with you, he growls as he stalks away. Superman once again becomes angry with Superman 22, demanding to know why he would set this example for David. Why he would let the world become this. But Batman holds his friend back. He explains that what happened on Earth 22 doesn't need to happen on their world. He's not you. Our world isn't theirs, Batman tells Clark, when suddenly a spirit appears before the gathering of heroes. Nor need it to be, today or tomorrow, the Spectre says, looking to the 2 heroes from another Earth. The crisis has passed. It is time I return you home. But Superman shakes his head. Not until I know what becomes of David. The powerful Spectre stares at the Man of Steel for a moment before lifting his heavy cloak, pulling them into the darkness. Very well, he says, and so the Spectre shows them the future of Magog taking the Joker's life. The world turns on Superman, believing that his morality is a thing of the past. So Superman goes into a self-imposed exile, allowing the new heroes of the world to grow restless and reckless. This will eventually lead to a battle that would claim the lives of most of the world's heroes. Superman stares in horror at the images that the Spectre shows them, but Batman takes hold of his friend, explaining that it wasn't that Superman 22 didn't help those in need, it was that he thought that he wasn't needed anymore. But he was wrong. Every world needs a Superman. The duo then once more appear at the cemetery, looking over the rows of gravestones, and they find David kneeling before one, tears in his eyes as he asks for forgiveness. Superman puts a hand on his former sidekick's shoulder. Hello, David, he says softly, and David looks at them in shock, recognizing them as the heroes that he knew all those years ago. Superman tells David that he knows that he can't change the past, but he needs to learn from his mistakes to help create a better world based on what he has learned. Pick yourself up. Do better. After all that has happened, I still believe in you, Superman says as he pulls his former sidekick into a hug. Both Superman and Batman fade away from Earth 22, returning to their world. David watches the place where they were, a tear in his eyes. I will, he whispers. And he does. He leads the Justice League into a brighter future, finally living the lessons that he was taught.
And there you have it, Return to Kingdom Come. What did you guys think of today's full story? How did it compare to the original Kingdom Come? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, like it and share it with your friends. I'm Dan with Comicstorian, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.